An allowance race? Why would we go over an allowance race? Well, this happened on Sunday afternoon, and the reason we're going to talk about it is because all of the sudden, a horse called Justify has made his claim to be the best 3-year-old in the country, male, female, sprint route, doesn't matter. In a short amount of time, he has gone from 0 to 100. This was the field. It was a very, very short field. It was over a muddy, sealed racetrack, but Justify was bet down to 1 to 20 odds. And rightfully so, on the heels of an unbelievable blowout victory in his career debut when he earned a 104 buyer for Bob Baffert. Now you had a couple of the questions. Stretching out, facing a wet track, facing winners for the first time. Would he run as well or even close to the way that he ran in the career debut? Pretty emphatic yes. Here's Michael Rona with the call.
Timbers. They swing for home, and it's Justify by 4. Shiver Me Timbers second. Calyx Man on the inside is next. Justify coming past the 8th pole would have to race in outer space to feel less pressure. He's not yet battle-hardened, but just who is the most talented 3-year-old to race this weekend? Justify, a colt of limitless potential, wins by 6 lengths from a Shiver...
Justifies the short price that he went off at and justifies some of the hype anyway at this point. He gets the job done in this allowance race. I'm not going to go through all the payouts, but you can see that stuff there. He's 2 of 2 so far. That's all well and good, and you can see his horse card here. He is owned by China Horse Club, Head of Plains Partners, LLC, Starlight Racing, and Windstar Farm. He's trained by Bob Baffert. He's bred by John D. Gunther in Kentucky. Ridden to victory by Mike Smith, and you can see the pedigree. He's by Scat Daddy out of a Ghost Zapper mare named Stage Magic. He earns a 101 buyer speed figure here in this race. This allowance race does justify a 125 Timeform US rating. He came home in 26. He was not asked to run a step. You saw in the blink of an eye on the far turn, he went from a length and a half behind to a length and a half in front of Shiver Me Timbers. I thought this was an unbelievable effort. And I'm sorry, it was actually Calyx Man who was out on the front end, not Shiver Me Timbers, who ultimately ran second. Visually, this checked all the boxes because he sat, he was wide, he ran over a wet racetrack, and, he just did it all well within himself. Does it prove to me that he's one of the top 3-year-olds talent-wise? Yeah, probably. Probably talent-wise he is, but there's always that concern and that question, what's going to happen when you face better horses where they don't just wilt the way that pace setter did when you come rolling up, unless you are just an absolute freak of nature. Now, a lot of people have been tweeting out different sort of PP cuts and combinations of things about horses who in their career debut popped a triple-digit buyer and then followed it up with a race of this magnitude. And it reads like a who's who of some of the horses of the past 10, 15 years. Is it possible that Justify fits into that mold? It certainly is. I'm not going to sit here and doubt this horse entirely, wholeheartedly. I'm going to sit here and just say, before I would be taking him, I believe he closed in the Twin Spires Churchill Downs Kentucky Derby Future Pool as the individual betting favorite over Bolt Doro, over McKinsey, over the 2-year-old champion Good Magic, over everyone else that has run. Horses that have won stakes races, graded stakes races, multiple graded stakes races. This horse has won an allowance race. He closed as the favorite for the Kentucky Derby in that individual pool. I don't know if I'm ready to go that far yet. I want to see what happens when you finally dive into the deep end. If you do that, what we saw on Sunday against all of these other horses that we've seen. And again, if you're going to do it, this is the year to do it. Certainly is, because it just, again, they're taking turns, beating one another. If you show up with a big effort against these kind of horses, against the graded stakes caliber runners, who am I to sit here and bring up that nonsense about Apollo? Look, up here, the Red Sox lost for 86 years in a row, or it took 86 years. And then they finally got over the hump, and people talked about the curse and all this other garbage. You need things to just work. You need a combination of things. And maybe this is the perfect storm where you've got a year where maybe you've got 2 or 3 that kind of put themselves up here, and then you got everybody else down here. From a talent standpoint, Justify, I think, is right there, certainly with the Bolt Doros and the McKinseys of the world. He doesn't have the foundation and the battle hardness that these other runners do. That, to me, could be a concern. But, I mean, we wouldn't be talking about the whole Apollo thing if if a horse like Bodemeister, who many people have brought up on Twitter, if he hadn't gotten into a pitched battle with Trinneberg early on, put him away, and then just got run down by Allhav another number of years ago, we wouldn't even be talking about Apollo. It would be a moot point, and we would just be saying, wow, Justified looks like he could be the goods. Now there's this whole thing hanging over his head. I think there is something to the foundation, and I do think there is something to the idea that until he does it against elite company, at least of his generation, and then you don't know for sure. But my goodness, you couldn't ask for anything more out of the first two starts. Multiple triple-digit Beyer speed figures, enormous time form US ratings, and visually he checks all of the boxes. And I think importantly, he's shown that he can run on a wet track, which the folks in Southern California, sure, you had some rain over this past week, but a lot of the top contenders, they've yet to find out if they can run on a wet track. This horse, that's not a problem, and we've seen in recent years, we've had a number of derbies that have been run on sloppy tracks. So the sky looks like it's the limit. Who knows what we're going to get from Justify? It's going to be a graded stakes race coming up in his next start. The question is, which one is it? Is he going to go to Arkansas? Is he going to stay at Santa Anita? Is he going to go to New York? Is he going to go to Kentucky? They've got plenty of options, but no question about it. Justify looks like he is the goods as far as talent is concerned. We'll find out if he can handle the hiking class and having all this happen in just such a short amount of time. 101 Beyer speed figure for Justify winning the allowance on Sunday.